should the Saints be keeping the door open for Derek Carr's return?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things where it's very easy for people to say, bench him, move on, start the young guy. But they're kind of in a state of flux right now. And ideally, you can say, like, let's just evaluate Spencer Rattler and then make all our decisions next season. He's hurt, shut him down. But if Derek Carr doesn't want to be shut down, you don't know who your coach is going to be next year. You can't really make that decision of saying, basically, you're going to Derek and saying, don't care about your effort. We're done with you. Stop rehabbing. We're moving on. Like, if you tell him he can't come back, you're telling him he can't come back ever. And I don't know that they've made those decisions yet. So it's easy to sit here and say, like, in this ideal world, well, like, who cares? But you don't really know what direction you're going to go. And Derek Carr could be a drawing card for your next coach, or he might be somebody that you're pushing, that's pushing people away. But until you really know what the next step is for your organization, I think it's a very hard decision to make. In that ideal world, like, you'd like to be able to just say, like, nope, shut it down. We're going to look at Spencer and then we'll figure it out next year. Don't worry about it, man. But like, that's a hard thing to do, because if you do that, you are you really have to sever ties. And personally, where the team's at, I kind of feel like it might be time to just kind of move on to that next chapter and to go look for your next quarterback and just to eat the hit and kind of start over. But that's easy for me to say. I can sit here and say it in this podcast studio without actually having ramifications to my actions or changing the path of my franchise in a way that might, before I have all my information. So I think you just kind of keep your information available. You can stall that process if you want to somehow, but I think you just kind of keep all doors open right now. Find out who your next coach is, then make your quarterback decision, because they aren't going to get Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson could say, like, well, like, I want to work with Derek. And now, like, you could be in this weird situation where it becomes impossible to get it. Aaron Glenn could say, well, I can come there, but I don't want to have to, like, keep Derek in place while we figure out this quarterback situation long term. Like, I don't want to walk into a situation where I'm only going to win 3 games and now my whole entire tenure is stained by that, and I lose the locker room. And somebody might want that quarterback there already and then figure out door B. So until you really have all that information, it's really tough to actually go through it in practice and say, we're done with you.
Yeah, look, I've said it a number of times. I believe it. I think Derek Carr is underrated, underappreciated to a certain extent. I don't think the Saints should pay any quarterback $40 million. I don't think they should go out and pick Kirk Cousins up off the scrap heap. I don't think they should want Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield right now. I don't think they should be the highest bidder for Sam Darnold. So this is not specifically Derek Carr isn't the guy. I don't think the Saints should want a quarterback in that tier at that price, period. But this is all about this discourse is all about the disconnect over what Derek Carr is. And I think we all here kind of agree that he's somewhere in that, like, 20th best quarterback in the NFL range. I see a lot. I mean, we talk about it, amongst ourselves, but see a lot on social media where the fans are just like, I know he's not it. I'm done with him. He's terrible. Like, get rid of him. That's not how the Saints feel. One of the things that I love about Darren Rizzi is I feel like he's on Twitter. I feel like he knows what everyone's talking about, and he comes and he confronts those conversations in his press conference. He talked a lot about this yesterday. He said, first of all, I haven't gotten the command from on high. If Mickey Loomis or Mrs. Benson wanted to tell me we're putting him on IR, we're shutting him down, we want to make sure we don't have to pay him next year. He said, I'm aware that's what the Raiders did with Derek Carr a couple years ago. They're not telling me to do that. And as I'm looking at it as a coach, he said, I came in here and I talked about a clean slate when I became head coach. Alvin Kamara got a clean slate. I made him a captain. Cam Jordan got a clean slate. I let him play. Kendra Miller got a clean slate. I let him play more. Said, and since I've taken over, Derek started 4 games and we're 3-1. He's got a 68. He came ready with his stats. 68% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, only 2 sacks. His quarterback rating's over 103. And so why would I play him? I mean, it's kind of obvious. So, like, this is a coach saying, like, this is my best quarterback. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, that's the decision. And I understand why people want more, and I understand why people want more bang for the buck. But Darren Rizzi is a football coach saying, it's obvious this guy's been my best quarterback. Like, that's not, there's no mystery behind that decision, I don't think.
I don't think the fan thing's about where he's viewed or whatever, though. Like, I think it's really about why, even beyond next season, I think it's more about why bring him back and try to win a game when your season's over. I think that's the conversation they're kind of having. Shut him down.
Yeah.
Don't try to win another game. Alvin's hurt. Olave's probably not going to play again. Rashid's done. Taysom's done. Why bring the quarterback back and maybe beat the Raiders? You know, what's the value in that? I think that's the conversation they're kind of having right now. And I think as it pertains to that, to tell him not to come back is telling him he can't ever come back at that point. I think you damage the relationship to a point where it's severed. And the overarching thing here is, what is the 2025 plan? I think the fact that you aren't shutting him down leans towards the thought process that they're probably leaning toward keeping him is their quarterback next year. And again, that can all change. It could be Ben Johnson wants to come here, but he wants nothing to do with Derek Carr, and now you get rid of him. Like, I don't think you have all your information yet. So again, I think it's really hard to make that decision. But shutting him down means you're telling somebody that's working hard to get back that their effort is just, it's kind of F you, get out of here. Like, we don't ever want to see you again. Kick rocks. Like, and I don't think they're willing to do that. And again, as I sit here in this podcast studio and I don't have to make real life decisions, I probably would just move on. Like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done. I'm done with it right now as it kind of stands. But I don't believe they are, and I can't really hold great fault to them for that either. Like, if you want to keep them and Darren Rizzi wants to win games, like Darren Rizzi should want to win games. Yeah. Darren Rizzi wants to make his case. Derek Carr wants to come back and play. You want players who want to come back and play. Like, Alvin's hurt right now. He's trying to find a way back. Like, you want people with that DNA, but it does feel fruitless, and the 2025 season going along this path to me right now feels a little bit fruitless. And again, very easy thing to say, because you could have this roster, have a 2017 type draft, and all of a sudden this roster with 3-4 rookie starters, oh wow, wait, they can actually win this like very bad division next year with Michael Penix and Baker Mayfield and So it's easy to say all these things right now, but to me right now, today, it feels pointless, and I would move on, but I understand why they aren't.
Well, I have 2 quick points. One, all the things you were saying that we don't know about next year. We also mentioned the what if Derek Carr was willing to take a big pay cut too. That's a conversation they could have, that they could say to him, hey, listen, we're only going to pay our next quarterback $15 million. Do you want it? If it's not you, then we're going to go sign someone else for $15 million. That's a conversation they can still have if they don't just end the relationship right now. Second thing, I do think you're right that this is a conversation about it's fruitless to try and win another game this year, but it is the polarizing Derek Carr conversation, because I have not seen my Twitter timeline filled with just put Alvin on IR already. Like, shut him down for the rest of the season. People would like to see, and I haven't seen people saying bench Cam Jordan and play Isaiah Foskey. And
I've been it's worse than that. People are still telling Cam to retire. Like, Cam's definitely still, and that's he's playing well. I would welcome him back next year.
But I just mean there's a lot of people who want to see Derek Carr go on IR. I think because they want to see the Saints make that decision. We're done with Derek Carr. I don't think there is the same bench Demario Davis for Jalen Ford. Tell Alvin he has to go on IR. Don't let him come back. I haven't even seen people saying don't let Chris Olave come back. That's a little more nuanced, because
to be fair, I definitely I'm in my mentions all day. I'm definitely seeing good. Shut him down. Season's over. No point in coming back. Hey, get well, King. Like, all this stuff. That's go to Cabo. Like, why is Chris trying to come back? Just shut it down. Like, there are people. There is a lot of that out there.
There's both. There's definitely people who don't want to win another game, but there's more Carr. There's more anti-Carr.
No doubt.
Rhetoric guiding this conversation for sure.
No, there's always going to be noisemakers on both sides of the track. But when I first read this, I don't know if it was too much tunnel vision or short-sightedness, but I initially was just thinking about this season, the end of the Darren Rizzi, or what could be leading into the beginning of the Darren Rizzi era going into next season, because I was like, well, Alvin is trying to come back. Chris, he was out there yesterday. He could have just said, hey, I'm just trying to get all the way right. And so I was like, well, you look at the other quarterbacks who played 0-4. You got to play Tampa Bay to end the season, and I don't doubt anything would happen, but whatever magic could happen in the division, it has to kind of happen there. The Raiders, I know Derek wants to play against them. He wants to, even though it's not the same set of people that booted him out the door, he still wants to stick it to the silver and black, just in general. But I mean, Tampa Bay wrote the book on how to beat the Saints. They did it the worst of shit. They hung 51 points on them in the dome. Spencer Rattler, he showed flashes last week. I think he'll continue to show growth and flashes, but who knows what happens to his confidence after Green Bay. I don't know what's going to happen out there. Jake Haener, lights are too bright. Lights are way too bright. Like, I was thinking about that even last week on why I chose Rattler as the person to go with.
Oh, he wanted to flex.
Nah. Because legit, I was thinking, I legit was thinking, like,
you get credit.
I legit was thinking, like, even for the high school kids that went in there last week for the championship, like, I know in high school when I went, I looked up, I saw the lights. And I was cooked, you know what I mean? I can kind of speak for the whole team. Like, we looked up, we saw the lights, we're like, dog, this is like the dome. This ain't Hanville on a Friday night. This is the Superdome. Like, there's a lot of people, the lights are bright, and that becomes overwhelming, and it was for him. So, I mean, if you're trying to win games and make your case on why you should be the next head coach, yeah, go back to Carr.
You think?
Well,
do you
look,
guys
I thought
think?
you were. Hold on. I thought you were about to make a different point, and I thought it was going to be a really good point. In that
man.
Rizzi has everybody like fighting to come back from these injuries,
Yeah,
and that
for sure.
that bodes well to him. Like
People want to
like
rock
as a
with him.
leader, as a leader, people trying to come back and not shutting it down like that. That's kind of
That's a good
a
point.
thing that's happening right now, and like that kind of really shows a lot of buy-in because it would be very easy to just say I'm done. Like all
Tuck
these
your tail
guys,
and run, and then just be like, and nobody would villainize you. Well, they still probably would, but they wouldn't say, oh, well, you know, you're a coward or whatever, because it's like you're
Well,
legit.
no, you have an injury, but it'd be very easy. But the messaging like from everybody is like, no, I'm fighting to get back. Like, all right, well, like in other times I've heard people, you know, gonna shut it down and get ready for next year. Like, yeah.
Real quick, if we're taking Darren Rizzi at face value that Derek Carr is currently his quarterback because he's 3-1. This graphic says they're 0-4 without him. Some disingenuousness to that, but it's not just about record, obviously, when you're evaluating quarterback play. But how close do we think Rattler is to becoming the one that they think gives them the best chance to win? Is he one good performance again? Even if they don't win in Green Bay, if he looks like he did against Washington, do you think Darren Rizzi's mind could be made up to be like, well, actually, I want to keep rolling with Rattler? You think Rattler is close enough to closing that gap to where he could become the guy who actually does give the team the best?
I don't think
chance
there's
to win?
enough runway on the season for Darren Rizzi to feel like he should bet his job on Rattler over Carr. But I think there is a type of performance where it becomes like, all right, you have to keep going with this guy, and you just got to let him keep rolling at this point. Like, but I don't know if you get to the point over the next 3 weeks where it becomes like exceedingly obvious that, okay, like this guy is better. Like if Tom Brady had it like a 2-game runway, like he loses the first game and that, I don't think you get to that point where it's like, no. Like Drew Bledsoe's done. I think you need a little bit more runway for it. And I think you need someone that's probably not the interim coach to kind of just completely lean into it. And then otherwise that has to come from above. But I don't fault Rizzi at all for wanting Derek Carr out there. Like, this is where you're at. You don't have a contract beyond the next 3 games. Like, your interests are to win these games. It's not to get it ready for Aaron Glenn next year. Like, that isn't what you should be trying to do.
I'm not gassing up the bus for somebody else to come drive. What I look like putting my card in the machine for that. But another thing too, Derek, if and when he comes back, it's not going to be 100%. He's still going to be nursing his hand. And that oblique injury from earlier this season is probably not 100% either. So I don't know. We'll have to see.